Welcome to Game Soup, it's a game design podcast where we throw ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. I'm Chloe Montgomery and I'm joined by Diana Jones, emerging designer.
Kayla Dice, who at the time of this release is no longer crowdfunding a project. Oh my god. Wait, at the time of this release, Dragon Meet is tomorrow.
Yes it is. Come meet us in London. Bring me a monster and I'll give you a game.
Oh, that's the thing. I dropped off of energy drinks a lot this month because I had an energy drink, I think, early in the campaign and my heart went out whack and I'm like, I should maybe cut down my caffeine a bit. But by god, if there's ever a time to dive full back into caffeine.
Yeah, no, I mean, we always get a big box of Monster for conventions.
Yeah.
Outside of conventions, we're trying to stick to Lucozade because it's not as hyperactive, I think, but
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like I said, I've tried to cut down on energy drinks. I still drink a lot of coffee. I still drink, decent bits of tea, and if I'm out, I do still buy soft drinks like Coke or stuff. I'm not cutting out caffeine, but I just think combined with the other sort of routine caffeine drinking I do, there's no day where the only caffeine I'd have would be an energy drink. I would have an energy drink after a morning coffee. Because it would be later in the day always, and that would maybe where the problems began. But no, I usually last year I borrowed a thermos so I could make some coffee in the morning and take it there because the coffee at the Novoto Hotel is, say it with me everyone, shit.
I love this reoccurring. You're always mad at the Novotel coffee. It's hilarious.
It's bad. It's bad and not cheap. And you should bring your own from home.
Starbucks across the road.
Yeah, that would be so much walking, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll enlist someone. If I run out of coffee, don't get me wrong. Also, to be honest, this is not even as the ethical thing. I do not rate Starbucks as a coffee place that much. If I'm buying just, chain...
I like their bacon sandwiches.
I go with a Costa. Yeah, can't relate. I was at dinner with my boyfriend on Thursday. And anytime I go out to dinner with my boyfriend, what's really happened is he's told me ahead of time, if you wanted to eat beforehand, that would be fine. And I'm always like, I think I will. So I did this. Because it was a dim sum place and there was some stuff in front, and someone we were having dinner with was asking, oh, Kayla, do you want some? And he, who had his mouth full at this time, just was shaking his head. And I sort of laughed while being no. And then when he swallowed his food, he was like, it's not vegetarian. And I was like, oh, right, yeah, no, that's a reason you can just flat out shake your head for me. His friend was immediately yeah, I just thought maybe he was a very controlling boyfriend. No, she doesn't eat until I tell her she can.
No, she doesn't eat in front of me. It's not sexy.
If I see her eating in front of me, I imagine food going out of her, and that's gross, and I don't want to think about women doing that. Just want to emphasize, not a thing my boyfriend said, but... Yeah, you had a question for me.
Yes, my question for you... we were watching Doctor Who this week, and we watched the episode where they go back and meet Vincent van Gogh. And Alyssa has this theory that, spoilers for a 15-year-old episode of Doctor Who, but at the end of the episode, they take him to the future to see a gallery of all his stuff. And there's a guy played by Bill Nighy, who very, Bill Nighy gives this big speech about how he's the greatest painter of all time and possibly one of the greatest men of all time. And this puts Vincent van Gogh into tears.
Very affecting scene for a good episode.
Yes. Alyssa's theory, and I kind of agree with her, is that this is what drove him to suicide.
Jeez. So I guess you're going to need to put a content warning on this episode, right?
Yes.
I really thought you were just going to go with the usual fan theory of Bill Nye's the Doctor. No, this is a very different conversation.
Because it's like he sees all of this work, and it's all stuff he's already painted, and it's like, okay, that drives him to madness. It's like he was already not great, but it's like if a time traveler came to you and was like, right, we're going to a game store in the future, and it's like, here's all of your... They go to the counter and like, who's the greatest RPG designer of all time? And it's like, oh, well, it's Kayla Dice, of course, and I love their works. Terminal.
Is your follow-up question here, if this happened to you, Kayla, would you kill yourself about it?
No, I'm thinking, if they said, all of your greatest works are behind you, like, what do you do in that situation? Like, oh, so
I mean, I'm going to throw it out
already?
there. So this is just a point that I feel slightly does break apart your theory, though. Or Alyssa's theory, I should say. It's not the entirety of his work in that art gallery. It's a selection, because works of art often, like, are not... Unless there's, like, a big exhibition, I don't think the gallery scene in the present day or whatever is supposed to be, this is all of the Van Gogh paintings, it's a selection. If I went into a shop, they were like, you're the greatest living artist, well, dead in this point, presumably, and I could see some of the games on sale, and I saw, like, Psycho Dungeon, Swamp Creature, and Terminal, I wouldn't necessarily go, oh my god, nothing I do after that peaks ever, or I wouldn't go, like, oh god, I'm gonna get hit by a car, like, 3 days after coming back. I'd maybe just assume that's what's in stock at the moment, which is obviously different from a gallery, but I still feel there, Vincent may be like, yeah, no, this is the collection from... from this period to this period, there's probably another gallery about the things I do when I'm 50. God, this is getting content warning so hard.
I'm just going to go into my notes and add explicit.
I mean, I guess if the theory is like, oh, it made him doubt his own sanity more, I'm like, yeah, but that's just the time travel and aliens and shit in general. I occasionally worry, not worry, but I occasionally worry about, like, whether a sense of irony when I make certain jokes doesn't come across, because I don't actually know who our podcast audience is en masse. Like, we have...
Yeah.
A decent sort of, like, regular stream of listeners. Some go more, some go less. But we do have people who, like, you know, seem to check in weekly. We've met one person who's a fan of the podcast, Iggy at UKG and Tabletop Scotland, which is really nice. But in general, I don't know who our audience is. And I don't know how when I make, like, ironic jokes, like doing a bit about my boyfriend saying that, like, he doesn't like to watch me, whether people... have the context of me to go like, oh, the irony is obvious. This is what... The joke is irony. I'm not actually worried about it, to be clear, but I occasionally wonder about it. Of just like, how does some of the weirder jokes come off? I think I wonder about it because of, like, having been a stand-up where I had, like, a very immediate reaction. Both of, like, I know how the audience is liking this stuff, but also, like, I could look out and I could go like, yep, this is our percentage of our audience. It's like... Do you get what I mean at all? Or is that my own
Yes, no, I get
brain?
the neuroses.
Do you want to do game design, or do we, I don't know, want to start talking about eating disorders or something?
Oh, Jesus wept. Have you had any fun ideas for games this week?
I had a fun idea I thought we could riff on. It was actually something I sent you yesterday. Where, let me see how I phrased it yesterday. Because I could probably get some, good for it. A game where you, the player, put on makeup and that unlocks, like, powers or abilities or something for your characters. So then I was also saying, in my mind of this, I'm like, oh, look combinations. It's specific. It's not just like, you put on makeup and now you get a +1 to all your dice. It's like, oh, you've got winged eyeliner on so your character can fly. And so it's like, oh, you combine winged eyeliner with like a bronzer that, like, if you've got some bronzer on as well, that's some armor. That's literally, like, that being the idea of, like, where look combinations matter. This is a mechanic for... This is a game for sleepovers.
Yes. I like it. I'm not sure about the requiring the actual physical skill of needing to know how to do makeup.
I completely disagree.
Well, fair enough then. I think it's charming.
No! I think, like, physical skill, one thing, but I'm also like, you don't need to do your own makeup. But I think you do need at least one person in the game who can do makeup enough to do other people's looks who aren't confident with it.
Yeah.
In the same way, like, you need at least one person who, if you're playing D&D, who probably knows vaguely how D&D works.
Fair enough, yeah. Okay then, I think this is a...
I'm not just being a get-good
thing.
bitch.
Yeah,
magical
I think
girl.
it's like a magical girl, like, teen girls with superpowers sort of thing. Fighting the forces of unfabulosity and ugliness.
Oh no, that's got a weird vibe.
By ugliness, I mean being mean to people in supermarkets.
Oh, inner ugliness, but the defeaters of inner ugliness are represented by people in makeup.
Yeah, you're the fashion police, and your job is to lock up... No.
Naughties. Any of the naughties you see about.
Yeah.
You have two stats, hottie and naughty. Yeah, some kind of magical girl thing could work. I also imagine, because I do feel like there's an element of, like... Either, depending... I don't know how long you would play this game for, how much you'd accomplish in it, but I'm also like, within a single session, you could, like, get a makeup wipe and redo a look to completely change your build. So to some extent, I like the idea about, like, the magical girl idea, I like the idea that you're, like, transforming in some way. I think at one point I did message you being like, maybe it's a mech thing. Like, you build makeup to build your mechs.
Magical girls are just mechs.
But, like, yeah. I like there being idea of some kind of transforming element to it. Do you want to take the low-hanging fruit there?
I mean, maybe one of the, like, in-game classes is you are transgendering yourself, but I think, like, maybe when, like, in-game you activate your powers, you become this, like, super fierce, like, drag queen version of your character.
Yeah.
Like,
I get what you mean. Drag queen threw me there for the transitioning character, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, in that Chapel Roan is a character played by whatever her name is.
Yeah. I do get that. I think this is an interesting idea. I think this is so unmarketable as a game, because I would not want to water it down by including rules where you can play it without putting makeup on.
See, I think it would be a little bit of a con. Like, it would be a fun pitch at a con, because, like, you'd see, like, cosplayers or whatever, and they'd be like, oh, I've got a game for you. It's about making looks and being superpowered. Like, you know, I think, like, adding that drag queen aspect, like, kind of makes it, like, fun. I don't know.
I get what you mean, yeah. I personally, I don't know much about drag makeup looks specifically.
No, me neither.
I have...
But...
Like, what's your, like, you can feel free to not answer this question. What's your relationship with drag at all?
I dislike it, and I've been bullied by drag queens in bars before. So...
Oh, that's sad.
However, when I was working in a bar once, and there was drag queens in, there was one who was dressed up as a deer, and they asked for my name, and they, like, took my hand and, like, kissed it. It was like, enchanté. And so, like, that one drag queen is the only good drag queen.
Okay, yeah, no. I don't dislike drag, but also it's never been something I've had a massive interest in. I've watched Paris is Burning, and I have been to drag shows for people's birthday parties, and as a stand-up comedian, I would get booked on a lot of miscellaneous cabaret nights where there would be drag acts as well. Which, like, they were always very friendly, but I'm always like, what is this night? where you are having someone do like this like really fun lip sync, and it's followed by a girl coming out being like, "Who's ready to laugh about suicide?" Yes. I always won the crowd back over because I was good at it, but like challenging. But also always got paid for cabaret acts, so the ups and the downs. No, but yeah, otherwise it's never been like a thing I've known in enough detail. So that's almost where I'm like, oh yeah, this is a fun idea, and I do get what you mean about like, oh, the drag element does feel like it makes it more palatable, whereas I feel like what I am pitching is a very confrontational game.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I couldn't write the drag version of it. I feel like this doesn't need to be so mean, though.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, the only reason I'm, like, leaning into that drag is, like, you don't need to know anything about drag. I think it's just, like, you put on, like, a superhero persona when you, like, activate your powers.
Yeah. I think some of what I'd like about this, in a genuine... This is me toning down what feels like the confrontation element of it. Is, like... I feel in terms of saying, like, oh, if you get a winged eyeliner, you can fly. I'm like, I feel like the book at that point should include, like, some instructions on pictures on how you might do specific makeup things. Like,
yeah, that's cute.
I feel at some level you could also pitch the game as a, like, hey, try out makeup looks with your friends to see if you like some things. It can look silly because you're playing a game.
Yeah.
I like, oh, I have a stupid story about makeup, actually. I, for 4 years, have forgotten the fact that I like how I look when I wear mascara, a very easy-to-do makeup, because my last mascara brush ran dry, and I forgot to replace it for, like, 4 years.
Well, I know what to get you for Christmas now.
No, I mean, I've remembered this because I fixed it. Now. Yeah. I don't mind makeup as gift presents, though I'm aware of why most people wouldn't necessarily want to give a trans girl makeup as a present.
See, I kind of stopped wearing makeup entirely because I liked how I looked when I had it on, but then I'd take it off and I'd be like, oh no, I don't like how I look without the makeup on. So,
Aww.
If I just never wear makeup, I'm happy with how I look.
I mean, and that's the only thing that matters. This is obviously the other thing, like, in writing this, there'd be that sort of... Because I think you probably would lean into this just being a sort of, like, a game for the girlies.
Yeah.
But then I'm also like, yeah, I do feel like it does need to be pitched in some way where it's not necessarily making someone feel like shit if they're not big into makeup. I also do think, though, it is fine for this to be like, yeah, it's a game involving makeup as a mechanic, and if that's not for you, that's not for you. And there are millions of other games that don't do that. In the same way that, like,
I think
I wouldn't play, like, really crunchy maths games because I'm terrible at maths. Ooh, I'm doing so little for women on this podcast, going like, I'm bad at maths and I love makeup.
Thank you for listening to Game Soup.
No!